What's going on, guys? Jerry Neutron here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a new flagship mouse from SteelSeries. This is the Rival 700. At a $99 MSRP, this mouse is expensive, but is it worth it for what you get? Starting with the shape, you get a nice right-handed ergonomic design. I found that it was easy to hold since the mouse contours to the natural shape of your hand, and it's also got these large grip areas on both sides which allow you to grasp the mouse firmly. If you look at the mouse from the side, you can see it's got a high back with large mouse buttons that slope downward, making it optimal for palm grip users. Personally, I'm not a fan of such a tall back on a mouse since I'm a claw grip user, but your preference is likely going to be based on your grip style. Button-wise, you get two large left and right click buttons rated at 30 million clicks. The thing I like about these is they're rather long. They almost come all the way up to the middle of the mouse, and it doesn't really matter where you press them. They feel the same whether you're pressing at the very top or at the end of the buttons. You also get a rubberized step scroll wheel with RGB lighting underneath and a DPI adjustment button right in the middle of the mouse. On the left side, you get two large side buttons which are easy to press regardless of your grip style, and a sniper button which is a little bit odd to reach, but by default is actually not mapped to anything. Now, one thing you don't see in a lot of mice today is modularity, and that's something that the Rival 700 brings to the table. You've got the ability to swap between cables, as it comes with a 2-meter braided cable for desktop use, and a 1-meter rubber cable for people that are gaming on laptops. The top cover, which is a plastic matte finish by default, can be swapped out for either a glossy plastic finish or an anti-sweat cover. Even the mouse sensor can be swapped out. You can buy an Avago 9800 sensor to replace the 3360, although if you do that, I'm kicking you right in the balls. Do not do that. Just know it can be done. There's even a good bit of customization you can do to the mouse. There's a nameplate that you can replace at the rear. SteelSeries even provides a template file so that you can 3D print your own. You've got RGB lighting on the top plate and scroll wheel with a healthy amount of effects like color shift, multicolor breathing, and solid color, and probably one of the biggest features, which is the Oled display. Here you can show off text or animated GIFs that run at 10 frames per second. Some people will say it's gimmicky, but I actually think it's a pretty cool feature. Obviously, you don't need to have a display on your mouse, but it just adds a little bit of flash to your peripherals. Just keep your GIFs simple though, as the mouse can only display black and white images at a fairly low resolution. Through the SteelSeries software, you have the option of turning on Gamesense, which in specific titles will show your game stats on the display. For instance, if you're playing CSGO, at the end of the round it will display your KD ratio, which I think is a nice touch. Gamesense can even control the lighting on the mouse based on certain scenarios. Right now, Gamesense is a little bit limited, as at the time of this review it only supports 3 titles, but there is an API available that will allow developers to integrate it with their game. Now, moving on, let's talk about the performance of the mouse, because really, that's the most important factor. On my scale, the Rival 700 weighed in at just under 139 grams, making it somewhat of a heavy mouse. So if you want something that's lightweight for those quick flick shots, this is not it. You will notice the weight moving this thing around, as it feels like there's 2 AA batteries on the inside. That's probably the best way to describe it. I'd like to see them get this thing down to around 100 grams max, but I'm sure they'd have to drop some features to make that possible. As for the sensor, this mouse is using the PWM3360, which is arguably the best sensor available on the market at this point. In my experience, the tracking was great. There was no jitter or prediction or things like that, and the sensor seemed to pick up on any subtle hand movements. Pretty much went where I told it to go, so I have no complaints. The last thing I want to talk about is the SteelSeries Engine 3 software. Here you can set up 2 sensitivity levels ranging from 100 to 16,000 DPI. I don't know why. I personally use 800 for gaming and 1300 to navigate windows for anyone that's curious. You also have the option of enabling acceleration, deceleration, angle snapping, and selecting a polling rate up to 1000 Hertz. There's no liftoff distance adjustment for some reason though, although by default it's actually set pretty low. You can fit maybe about 1 CD underneath the mouse before it stops tracking. The software also allows you to configure macros or reassign mouse buttons so that they can emulate a key press on your keyboard, or a media button, or a macro. There's even tactile alerts that you can set that will make the mouse vibrate in a certain pattern. Now by default this is off for any and all buttons, but I personally set a soft bump vibration for anytime I press the DPI toggle button, just so that I'm aware I've changed my DPI. And the cool thing is, once you have all of your settings configured, you can set up to 5 profiles directly on the mouse. So if you happen to travel or use a mouse on someone else's computer, it will hold all of your previous settings. The software isn't quite perfect, however. After updating the firmware on the Rival 700, the software would not save my default configuration to the mouse, so I had to perform a factory reset on it to fix the issue. Also, at certain times, my animated GIFs will freeze during gaming sessions or fail to display my stats if I'm playing a Gamesense supported title like CSGO. So it has good promise, but there are some quirks that still need to be worked out. Overall though, the Rival 700 is a great mouse. The level of modularity and customization is well beyond anything I've used previously. It's a real flagship mouse in every sense, with all the bells and whistles you can think of. It has the potential to be the mouse for a lot of people, but the high price tag and the heavy weight is going to scare off a lot of gamers. If they release a revised version that weighs 100 grams or less, it'll no doubt be a favorite amongst competitive gamers. So that's about it, guys. Let me know what you think about the Rival 700 down in the comments below. Do you mind if a mouse is a little bit on the heavy side? Also, don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful or entertaining. Subscribe for more similar content, and until next time, see ya.